Good afternoon. It is afternoon, no? No, not yet. Good morning. My name is Maher. I'm the Acting Under Secretary General for Global Communications, and welcome to the second day of the Ocean Conference at the SDG Media Zone. As you all know, I guess, if you have followed us on the first day, the Ocean Conference is started on Monday, it will end on Friday. Oceans and protecting the oceans is one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and the focus in the oceans, which covers 70% of the Earth, is seen as one of the key important aspects, and the conference aims and will have a call for action, and already 830 voluntary commitments have been made on the website, and also there have been a number of interactive partnership discussions between the private sector, public sector, and we hope to highlight issues that the ocean, even though how vast, big, enormous it is at risk, and I think concrete and urgent action is needed. And we welcome the presence with us today of distinguished guests: Adrian Grenier, actor, director, well known for playing Vincent Chase in the HBO series Entourage, and most importantly to us, of course, he's known for his philanthropic work to protect the ocean and marine life, and I think only yesterday was designated as Goodwill Ambassador for UN in Environment Program, supporting the Clean Sea campaign that the UNEP launched to reduce plastics in the ocean. The Ocean Conference has highlighted the importance of oceans not only as a source of food, its relation to climate change, but because 1/3 of carbon dioxide that is in the air is actually absorbed by the oceans, and half of the oxygen that we breathe comes from the ocean. The absorption of the carbon dioxide, of course, leads to increased acidity of the oceans, and that leads to coral bleaching. But the other threats that we see that are facing our oceans include, of course, overfishing, loss of biodiversity, and most important, I think, waste and plastics, so clean seas. And I think the focus here about the campaign that was started by Adrian, strawless Ocean Initiative, and I think we will ask him to speak more about that. With us also is Erik Solheim, who is the Executive Director of UN Environment Program, and I guess you will hear more from Erik why they have chosen Adrian as their most recent Goodwill Ambassador. And joining us in the panel is, of course, additional panelist Piyush, Bhargava, Vice President Global Operations of Dell, and we want to know why is Dell interested in oceans, but I think we'll hear more from you.
Definitely.
So, Adrian, this is how you got it. Maybe you can tell us what brought you to this initiative, and why have you chosen plastics and straws and oceans as a theme to focus on?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hi. So I've been doing environmental work for quite some time. I've worked with countless organizations over the years, and I started to notice that there was a lack of communication, a disconnect between the disparate organizations and people, and I wanted to start an organization that was focused on uniting people and creating bonds between humans and connecting them with what's important out there in the world. And I came across a story about the loneliest whale in the world. He's a real creature, a whale that migrates up and down the Pacific coast, except this whale is unique because he speaks at a different frequency than other whales. He speaks at 52 hertz, whereas other whales speak much lower. And so knowing that whales are highly sentient, very social creatures, very intelligent, we thought, well, hell, I mean, if this whale is trying to find connection, trying to communicate, but is unable, he must be lonely. And made my heart swell. Anybody who has a heart probably in this room feels the same way. Wow, we have a sense of empathy for this other creature. And I said, this whale actually communicates quite well. He communicates to our humanity. And that's when I started the Lonely Whale campaign. And through his journey for connection, we thought he'd be a great mascot for our mission to connect people to each other and to the oceans, and to understand a little bit about whales and other marine wildlife and what they face every day. And of course, we came across one very, very big issue, which is single-use plastic. Whales encounter single-use plastic a lot. They ingest a lot of plastic. In fact, we were talking about the whale that was beached recently, and they found how many plastic bags in his? 30 plastic bags in his belly. I guess it can be argued if that was the cause of death, but I think it probably didn't help. So knowing that the oceans are so precious to life itself, it's where we all came from, and knowing that they're often forgotten and misunderstood because they're so far out and so out of sight that we in our everyday lives tend to forget that they're there. I decided that was what I wanted to focus on, finding human connection and bonding people to the precious resource, which is the ocean.
Well, thank you, Adrian, and you're in the right place. This is the Ocean Conference.
This is, all right, okay, good.
And any cyborgs in the room? No? I think everybody has a heart.
Good.
Erik, UN Environment Program has many initiatives to protect the environment, and one of them is, of course, the Clean Sea campaign. So can you maybe highlight that and its relation to the conference today, and what can not just governments do, but businesses? I mean, you go to a supermarket in New York, and they don't put things for you in one plastic bag, they put it in 2 plastic bags, and sometimes 3 plastic bags. What can be done to actually reduce this plastic waste?
First, a couple of words about why this is such a central issue for our time. And as Adrian said, at the coast of my nation, Norway, very recently, there was a whale going around there, and it behaved extremely erratic. And people discuss why is that? And they shot the whale, and it has 30 plastic bags in its stomach. But it's not just whales. Seabirds, they dive down very fast. They pick up plastic. They believe it's jellyfish or fish. We open the stomachs of a number of seabirds, and if you compare it to a human, to Adrian or myself, the amount of plastic in the stomach of the seabirds would be as if we had half a kilo of plastic bags in our stomach. I mean, the seabirds are smaller, but it's a huge part of the stomachs of seabirds. So this is destroying the most beautiful life, whales and seabirds, along our coast. Adding to this is a huge danger over time to humans, because microplastic gets into fish and we will eat it. And of course it's destroying economies. I mean, how many people really want to go to a paradise like in the Caribbean or in Bali or wherever it is? If the beaches is full of plastic. So this is a huge economic issue also for many nations. So we need to act. We are very proud to have Adrian as our UN Environment Goodwill Ambassador. You asked why? I tell you why. Because, well, he's famous. Well, he has done a great career as actor. But, I mean, let me open. There are many famous people in the world. What we really needed was a person who's famous, but also have this enormous dedication to transform and change the world. And do it, and as you saw, this gentle way, speaking to people, informing them, and exciting people to come on board. Fighting plastic is not boring. It's exciting, interesting. It can be fun. You can go to fantastic, beautiful places, and working with business and government to make it happen is simply a huge part of our life, and it can be fun. We are partnering also with Dell, a great company who want to act on this. And in my view, this is the solution. Citizens need to act, and Adrian is a citizen. He's a famous citizen, but also a citizen. Governments need to act, and business need to act. Citizens need to clean their beaches, but most importantly, citizens need to put pressure on politicians and business to act. When you go to a supermarket, why don't you ask them to stop putting plastic bags rather than putting too many? Encourage and go and buy from those who change rather than from those who do not change. Encourage all the other businesses to transform. So the citizen action is very important. Added to that, governments must regulate markets and encourage business to move. And of course, business has an absolutely key role to play. I mean, all the supermarket chains or all the big players inside the IT industry are big users of plastic. They can reduce, but also the plastic industry itself needs to be a lot more innovative. How come we are using this very old-fashioned material made from oil? When we can move into alternative materials, we can use any number of other alternative materials. We can use alternative plastics made from cassava or from sugar canes or from other materials. And for sure, we can make recycling systems for plastic. All this is within reach. We just need to act. We need to act together, citizens, governments, and businesses. Let me finally point a couple of amazing initiatives. In the Indonesian island of Bali, 2 young sisters, they're 14 and 16 years old, have started Buy plastic bags, and both Adrian and I met them there a couple of months back. And they mobilized tens of thousands of people around Bali. They had the biggest cleanup of Bali ever happening, organized by these two young girls. And then, of course, they mobilized the governor, political leaders, business also, but the initiative, girls. In Mumbai, in India, a young lawyer called Afroz Shah had been in his flat at the 10th floor there. He looked down at the beach. It was absolutely horrendous plastic pollution. It's half a meter of plastic. You won't believe it before you see it. Then he told himself, let's do something with this. He did not call his parliamentarian or starting writing in the newspapers. He simply went down to the beach and starting picking plastic, mobilized a neighbor, then more neighbors, then hundreds of people, finally thousands of people. And they have done it for 80 consecutive days. But then, of course, when the people started taking action, then a lot happened. Then business came on board. Indian Plastic Federation have been there to discuss what they can do. The state of Maharashtra, where he's living, the mayor of Mumbai, all they come on board. And last weekend, even the Prime Minister of India hold up Afroz Shah as an inspiring example to all 1,300 million Indians as to how one individual can take action and transform society. So there's a lot to be done. Call upon all of you to join us and put pressure on business, put pressure on politicians, but also act yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Erik. So, Piyush, can you maybe tell us a bit about what Dell is doing in this area?
Yeah, so at Dell, we're a technology company and have the strong belief that technology can be a key enabler for human progress. And we have a heritage of innovating and working in the service of our customers and the communities that we serve. And about 2 years back, we started working with Adrian and the Lonely Whale Foundation. And through that work, we got pointed to the issue of ocean plastic pollution. The statistics around that are very sobering. If you think about 8 million metric tons of plastic entering the ocean every year, and the fact that in the next 10 years, that rate of plastic going into the ocean is likely going to double, and then by 2050, there's more plastic than fish in the ocean, that's an issue that we really cannot sit out and do nothing about. So apathy for us was not a choice as a company. And our ethos is built on legacy of good goals that really define the kind of company that we want to be in, and then the way that we want to engage with the communities that we do business in. And so we started to think about how we could get involved in the issue of ocean plastic pollution. And the way we wanted to show up was to bring our strengths around the use of technology and our expertise in things like supply chain to really help with this problem. We started to work with Adrian in identifying places in the world where we had high concentration of plastic pollution. And I was happy to announce in spring of this year, we started to first ship our ocean plastic packaging. In fact, we have a sample of that here. And by the use of ocean plastic and blended with post-consumer recyclable plastic, we were able to prevent 16,000 pounds of plastic from entering the ocean this year. And I think it's just a start. We are here at the UN and happy to share the platform at the Ocean Conference here to make really two commitments. Our first commitment is over the next 10 years, We want to 10x the amount of ocean-bound plastic that we want to use in our products and in our packaging. And we also realize no matter how much work we do as a company, as a private sector company, it still would be a proverbial drop in the ocean. So we've committed to open source all the learnings that we have, and we are inviting other businesses. Public and private partnership is key to solving this issue. And like you mentioned, the support of regulation and policy, which is conducive to solving this problem, is also a key enabler. So our commitment is to open source the work we are doing, and we are in the process of forming a working group where we are inviting other companies, NGOs, anyone who's sort of interested. It's sort of a coalition of the willing, but we really want to start working on scaling a supply chain in areas where ocean plastic pollution is an endemic issue, and by so doing, we hope to stem the tide of plastic pollution.
Thank you. I mean, everybody, of course, thinks of plastic bags is what comes to mind, but microplastics, you mentioned them, Erik, and I read earlier yesterday that there is now more microplastics in the ocean than plankton. And what products have that, and how can we actually take them out from the production, and what is needed to raise awareness about consumers to move away from microplastics that are now actually maybe playing it? Do you have anything to add, maybe Adrian, on that? Or
I don't know specifically the products. Perhaps, Erik, you know some of the specific products that contain microplastics. But I do want to say, yes, microplastics are a huge problem because the last thing, I mean, it's just harder to clean. It's harder to retrieve once it's tiny enough. But all plastics eventually break down to small microparticles of plastic. And that's why plastic should stay as far away from our waterways and the ocean as possible, because once it gets too small, it becomes a big soup of plastic, chemical soup of plastic in the ocean. So, yeah, specifically, maybe you want to speak to that, but
this is very clearly an area where more research and more knowledge is needed, because I think no one can be absolutely precise. There's one part of this coming from cosmetics. That's probably the most easy, because this is added to cosmetic deliberately to make the cosmetic better, and this can easily be replaced by other add-ons to the cosmetics. So that's just to regulate the markets or to put pressure on the cosmetic industry to change. Then, as Adrian said, of course, it's also the plastic degrading into smaller and smaller pieces. We need to take away the plastics. And then maybe the hardest ones will be, there seems to be a substantial amount of microplastic coming from our washing machines, simply from washing our clothes, and also from when heavy rain hits pavements, simply from the surface of the pavements. But I'm no scientist, and maybe people in the audience with more knowledge, but we need to know more, and we need to take action, because microplastic is, for human health, probably the most dangerous, because that through fish will come into our bodies, while of course the big plastic will not come into our bodies, but can come into the whales or the seabirds.
And straws. You specifically joined the strawless ocean campaign. Why do we need straws in the first place?
So, in my evolution as an environmentalist, I've been through many different phases. Emotionally, psychologically, when I was younger, I was, very radical, youth who tended to get a little bit agitated and would often pick fights with people and be a little aggressive, as youth are sometimes want to do, and I found that really wasn't effective. But then I've also been to the opposite extreme, where I've been overwhelmed by the issues that it's such a hurt in my heart that I just can't endure that pain, so I just turn off and become apathetic. And I think that a lot of people in this world feel the same way. What can I do? It's just too overwhelming. I just have to protect myself and just shut off and become safe from having to face the amount of trauma and sorrow that the problems invite, which we don't want also. So I found a balance, and And it really was finding a place where I realized that I alone don't have to take the weight of the entire world on my personal shoulders. I don't have to save the world. I'm not going to do it alone. So there was some relief in that. Mm-hmm. And it gave me permission to continue and work another day. But really, how do we scale? We don't scale by one individual doing everything. We scale by many individuals doing a little bit. So in my journey, I realized that we have to start with something very simple, accessible, and inspirational in order to get as many people on board as possible. And so instead of asking people to change their entire lives, which all at once can be overwhelming, we say, just do something very simple, something small. And we make a suggestion. Start with single-use plastic straws. Mm-hmm. Just that. If you do nothing else, just start with that. Because if you do that, you will be making a big impact. Because we in America use 500 million plastic straws every single day. So if we in America decided to stop using single-use plastic straws, we would reduce that many per day. Mm-hmm. But guess what happens? The single-use plastic straw, while it may be the low-hanging plastic, the easy to do, we encounter it every day, we're interfacing it with it constantly, and we can actually do something quite easily. It's also a gateway. When you ask somebody to do that, they start thinking about all of the other plastic, and they start thinking, well, if I can do plastic straws, maybe I'll do the plastic lids. Maybe I'll bring a reusable container to have my coffee in the morning, or my soda. And it really does become an opportunity for people to do more. And I think that's what you start, just one step, one simple change, and then it starts to scale from there.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Erik. Thank you, Piyush. This is the time allotted for us. I'm sure we could have continued for a bit longer. But thank you again for joining us. And as Adrian said, don't be apathetic. Start with the first step. Start with the straws. Move on to other things. But I think we all can contribute, and it's on us. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Adrian. When you're done, you go fine. No, I want to get you on video about the straws and the Lonely Whale. Okay. Yeah.
Maybe like you can take it off, and then we can flip it.